you. Hey, guess what? Today I am all dolled up just for you. And guess who did my makeup? Moi. Me. Ooh. What do you think of those pretty earrings, guys? Look at them. These are handmade earrings and they're made in Kenya. And if you want a pair, let me know. Guess what, guys? Hey, you know, sometimes I wonder to myself, why do I keep singing and screaming and all that kind of stuff? See, me, I'm always happy. What's the point of being stressed and miserable? Life is hard enough. Well, today I did my own makeup. What do you think? Did I try? You makeup artists out there, I know you're going to tell me a long story. Don't come here with criticisms, although I don't mind. I don't mind if you critique, but don't criticize. You know what critiquing is? Critiquing is saying, Maureen, you could do this, you know, more you could do that, more you could do this, more you could do that. But criticizing is like, your nose is too big, please. I can't change it, oh, that's the nose God gave me, oh, that's it, that's it. Well, guess what? Today, let me show you the outfit of the day. I have been warned, I have been told by my editors that I'm not very good at taking good shots. Who even knows what a good shot is? So guys, today the topic I decided to discuss is a little bit of a serious one. And the reason is because I care about you, I care about me, I care about the wellness issues that we are facing. You know, because of lockdown and because of being isolated and going through a lot of emotional trauma from the last year, a lot of us have probably gained a little bit of weight. And the worst place to gain weight is right here around the middle. The reason is because if you gain weight around your stomach, it means that you're gaining weight around your vital organs, which is things like, your kidneys, your heart and things like that. Just this area here. You should be very careful about not gaining weight around that area. So try to keep a flat stomach, not just because it looks good, but just because also it protects you from getting elevated problems with, for example, high blood pressure. Today I wanted to talk about hypertension. I've been doing a little bit of research on the issue because one time my parents came here to visit and there's something that they always have to carry along. I'm not advertising a specific brand, but this is a blood pressure monitor, okay? This is a blood pressure monitor. So my parents, every time they come around, they always have to have the blood pressure monitor because my mom has that issue and she always wants to know. My dad too, at that age, over 80, they want to know, the status of their blood pressure all the time. You'd never imagine the most, the thing that can elevate your blood pressure is always wanting to know what it is. I even think it's better just not to know. For the sake of this discussion, I wanted us to take a look at this issue of home blood pressure monitors. This one, for example, is actually operated on battery. So you just put a little battery at the back here. And it's very easy to operate. I like the color. At least it's green. It's not gray and miserable. Yeah. And all you do is just open it up and put it around your arm. Okay, you're gonna see how fat my arm is, eh? Why? Okay, so you put it around your arm, and apparently it's not supposed to go beyond this line here, yeah? So you put it on, there, and then you switch it in, kind of this kind of thing right here. There's an end here. You see what I'm doing? Okay, and then you just press start. So let's measure my blood pressure. Ideally, I'm supposed to not be speaking, so let me try and see if I can shut up even for 2 minutes. Can you see? There are the readings coming up. The thing is squeezing my arm like an issue. What is it? That's my blood pressure reading. 110/87. Not bad, but not necessarily the best either. Now, one of the things that I realized, just switch, remove it, put it back, keep it clean, keep it sterilized, whatever. During the day, your blood pressure will fluctuate, okay, generally. Now, when we reach this age of over 50, let's say 40s and above, our blood pressure starts to generally rise. All because I think we lose elasticity in our, arteries and things like that, blood vessels and things like that. So we just need to be aware of our blood pressure. So the ideal blood pressure is supposed to be 130/80, according to the 2017 American Heart Association, American College of Cardiologists new guidelines as of 2017. Okay, so it's supposed to be 130 millimeters of mercury, okay, which is the systolic pressure at the top, over 80, which is a diastolic. Diastolic down. Diastolic pressure should be no more than about 80 mmg per of mercury. That guideline changed from the previous one and from the one that is used, for example, by the European Institute of Cardiology and the National Institute of Health, that uses a different one, which is supposed to be 140/90. And if using those guidelines, I'm right within range, because I'm 110/87. But I myself, knowing my own history, know that my diastolic pressure has increased. Okay, it used to be over 110 or 100/75 or over 70, sometimes even over 65, and I'd find myself sometimes feeling dizzy because I felt like I was hypotensive, not hypertensive. Now, I'm telling you all of this just to understand that yes, there are two different definitions, okay, and there has been some research that suggests that the reason why they decided to lower the threshold is because they wanted to force people to change their behavior, so that we stop eating very high fat, high salt, sodium foods and start getting more active as well, and stop having a sedentary lifestyle, because high blood pressure, hypertension is such a deadly disease. I'm talking to you from a layman's person. I am not a doctor, I am not a nurse, I'm not a health professional. I'm just a regular woman who is just out there in the public, who's trying to understand this medical terminology. But what I do know is that because I also have a little bit of a background in nutrition, I'm also aware that there are foods that can help us to manage our blood pressure as well, and help us to regulate it so that it doesn't go too high or too low. Okay, apart from the foods is also our predisposition. Sometimes it's genetic factors, and sometimes it's also our personality and our psychology and how we feel in our mind. Stress is a very big factor. Now, I digress a little bit, but basically what I'm trying to say is that I want to encourage all my More on the Go subscribers and viewers to please be aware of your blood pressure readings. Be aware of what it is, because it's one of the most important indicators of your total health. Apart from your body temperature, which we're always being measured all the time, your blood pressure readings are just as important. It's good for you to have at least some awareness of what it is. Now, what if you find, for example, that you have a higher than 130 and higher than 140 reading, and higher than systolic reading, and higher than 80 or 90 diastolic reading? What happens then? Number one, do not panic. That's number one. Okay, because this is something that it could be influenced by so many things. Stress can make you become hypertensive. Additional weight, okay, can cause pressure on your blood vessels. Okay, that means that maybe if you gained weight suddenly because maybe you've been indoors, locked down under COVID, then yes, it will increase it, and therefore you know very well that that's an issue. Okay, the other problem is not breathing deeply the way you're supposed to be breathing every day. Okay, and having a poor diet, family stress, financial stress, all these things can really impact on your blood pressure. And as soon as you get rid of these things, or as soon as you're able to manage these things, your blood pressure reading can start coming down. All right, that's one. Number two, it's not to say that if you're already diagnosed with high blood pressure and or hypertension and have been put on medication that you should stop. But it's to say you should supplement your medications with other forms of control, okay? Because what happened is, when in 2017, the American Heart Association changed the guidelines to lower the guidelines, the threshold, to 130/80, it actually put so many more people into the hypertensive category, both in the US and in China. In China, it increased by 55%. In the US, increased maybe by 30 something percent, which is highly significant. All that means is that even right now, there are debates about whether that was accurate or whether that was right or wrong. I mean, how can a whole population be hypertensive? Like over half the population in the world be hypertensive? That doesn't really make sense to me, but as a researcher, it doesn't make sense to me. But what I've been reading is that it was just a way to get people to get serious, with their health and not to take things for granted. So what do I do in order to try to manage my fluctuating blood pressure, which is something that also happens when you're perimenopausal stage, which is just before menopause, and also during menopause. It happens because, even hormones regulate your blood pressure. Hormones, enzymes, so many things happen. So you start fluctuating all over the place. And the first thing I know is that I have to be always checking on my mental health. I think for me, it starts in the mind. For other people, it probably starts, with physical, but for me, it starts with the mind. It makes it, because I say to myself, I must be always in good, what do we say? I always have to be happy, either happy or at least not sad and miserable and depressed and things like that. Okay, because things like depression and things like that can actually cause stress to your body and then make you become hypertensive. One of the things I also learned, which was quite interesting, was that the top systolic blood pressure reading has a meaning, and the meaning is that it measures the pressure in your arteries when your heart is still constricting. Okay, when your heart is beating boom, 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 it measures the pressure in your blood vessels, okay, during the time when your heart is beating. Okay, that's the systolic, the one at the top. The diastolic, which is the one that's down, measures the pressure in your blood vessels when your heart is at rest, in between beats. What that means is that, it's like kind of like a river. The way I look at it, I think of it like a river that's going into a stream, a river that's, coming with a lot of force, and the heart is there rested. So what it does is the heart can go boom, and then you can end up having irregular heartbeats, palpitations, especially if your diastolic pressure is high. What I read is that you can start getting palpitations because you get this sudden surge of blood coming into your heart, And what that does is that it starts to weaken your heart muscle. And you don't want to play around with weakening your heart muscle, man. We only have one heart, we have 2 ears and 2 eyes. We only have one mouth and one heart. So you have to look after our mouth, our hearts, and everything that comes in once. You have to look after it because that's all you got. You got one chance with it. But it also means that it's a strong organ. And therefore, we should try to make sure that we don't allow our blood pressure to be so high that it goes around, affecting the muscles in the backs of our eyes, because it can affect our vision, it can affect our heart, it can affect your brain. You can end up getting a stroke. God, who wants any of that, So, number one, I think mental health is number one. If you just tell yourself, read a book, relax. They've also discovered that if you have like a power nap in the middle of the day, it will really help you to reduce, your stress levels, and also help you to reduce your blood pressure and to manage it. There are certain exercises that are done by this guy called Dr. Joe on YouTube. Look for him. He talks about the zinc oxide exercises, pushing your arms up and coming down like that. I've been doing some of those exercises. If you feel like your blood pressure is high, all of a sudden you can do those exercises, and all of a sudden you'll start to notice differences and changes. The other thing is, of course, to be careful about your intake of salt and sugar. They don't tell you about the sugar part, but I'm telling you as a nutritionist, the sugar part matters, because what happens is that when you have a high glycemic index in your body, that means you have high sugar in your blood. It means that you are also starting to gain weight. It's a predisposition to weight gain, and that weight gain puts pressure on your blood vessels. So you just want to regulate your your sugar intake. Try to get sugar from whole foods and fruits and things like that, rather than refined sugars like refined carbohydrates and things like that. Try to eat whole foods, sweet potatoes, from vegetable sources. Those are all right, and fruit sources. Those are all right. But you also have to be careful not to also overdo it, because you see, like they say, fruits are the candy of nature. Me and the way I eat fruits, I love it. The other thing is that you need to regulate your calcium, magnesium, potassium. The calcium and the potassium also regulates how your nerves work, basically. It also regulates how your heart works, and your nerves are very important. Well, anyway, I'm going to get into a little bit of that. I wanted to do some reading for you, but I don't want to get too theoretical and too academic on this. The idea is just for us to just be aware that we need to be checking our blood pressure often, yeah, and to watch our mental health, and not to be open to toxic environments and places and people and situations, because we know that they have an impact on our overall health. So one of the ways to manage your blood pressure, at least my women way of doing it, is by dressing up. Put on some makeup, feel good about yourself, and then the other thing to do is to go exercise, go swimming, go walking every day. If you do a walk every day, I tell you, you'll be really helping your body. Every day, just get up and walk. Read a book. Sometimes, I have the TV on and you think I'm watching it. No, I'm always on my phone. But that's stressing my eyes also. It's actually some sort of stress on its own, just watching TV. So I don't want to say much more because I don't want this to go too long. But just to tell you guys, let's watch our health, watching our mental health and our emotional health, psychological health. And also don't allow stress into your life. And try to manage, if you do have high blood pressure, try to manage it as much as possible with diet, exercise, and talking to yourself. Meditation as well, yoga. They talk about yoga, but me, I don't know anything about yoga. Me, I like those Dr. Joe exercises. I'm going to put a link for you on my YouTube channel because I just love him. He has researched so much on hypertension that it would be really helpful for you if you do have hypertension. On the other angle, that if you can also get diagnosed with the hypertension when you really don't have it, and then when you start taking medication, you become hypotensive, which is also just as dangerous. So you have to be very careful that you understand which indicators of hypertension are being used, whether it's a 140/90 or 130/80, okay, and why. So if you were to change anything to do with your medication and how much you take, always do it in consultation with your doctor, okay? Because in the end, it would be nice if all of us were to manage our health conditions without also having to always take drugs all the time, yeah? But if you are hypertensive, remember that you always have to consult your physician, okay? I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed chatting with me the way I chatted with you. And if you want those earrings, like I said before, and if you want to do a holiday in Kenya, in Mombasa, let me know. That's one way of managing your blood pressure, man. Let's go to the sea and do some snorkeling and see the fishes. Those guys don't have high blood pressure in the sea. Why? Because they don't have no stress, okay? All right, guys. Cheers. Love you. Take care. Too.